I went down the road to turn around to come back up, and came back up, and there's a truck parked on the track. And I was like, you got to be kidding. There's nobody around. And
Green plates?
I pull up. No.
Oh, okay.
It was actually a Pelletier, one of the logger's sons. And I said, oh, and he said, oh, you're after that track? And I said, yeah, I just went down to turn around to park back up here. But, I said, if you want it, no problem.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Northwoods Whitetails podcast. I'm sitting down here in Stowe, Vermont with Joey Davis
and Eric Adams.
Well, I got to say, we've been walking around his house here, and there's some serious bucks on the wall and some serious cars in this garage.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Man, you got a pretty good collection of both.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah, a few.
Yep.
So you used to hunt with Joey a lot? Is that the...
Yeah.
Through
the years. Yeah, definitely.
He was a good friend of my family. They all grew up together, and
yep.
And just to give you the backstory of it, when I was old enough to swing a paintbrush, I worked for Eric for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And
that's where you got your start.
That's where I got my start.
Okay.
And,
where the trouble began.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And obviously shared passions, and he introduced me to northern Maine when I was 19, 20. I was right out of high school.
Yeah.
That was an eye opener.
Enough to where they stopped us at the border,
Oh man.
questioned us, separated us.
Yeah, they weren't too keen on that. We were what were we doing? We were headed shed hunting. Yeah, we were going up there shed hunting.
And, so you were going to drive through Canada to get to...
Yeah, it's the quickest.
Yep, we went through Canada. We went
to go to Maine.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Got way up, and was it coming back?
Yeah, it was...
Or maybe it was going in. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was the Canadian side, and they separated us and questioned.
Yeah, they were curious as to why there was a,
I'm not that much older than him, but
40-year-old guy and a 19-year-old guy together.
I'm smuggling.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Can we ask you some questions? Oh boy.
Yeah, we both got back in the truck. We're like, what was that about? I don't know. What'd they ask you?
Oh my gosh.
Went about our way.
Yeah.
Filled our truck up.
Do guys still do that? They still drive through Canada to get up to Maine, or is it too much of a pain in the ass now?
No.
You still do it?
Yeah.
Or maybe it was just COVID time that it was...
Yeah, COVID you couldn't. Yeah.
Okay.
But way back in the day, we didn't used to. But then...
What must
forget what it was. A couple guys figured out it was quicker going through Canada.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything. You could, I think at first, register your gun...
Yep.
$20 or any amount, 2 or 3 guns, $20, and it was good for half a year or a year.
Oh, no kidding.
But now it's only good for, I think, a month or 2 months.
Yep.
Yeah, $20, $25.
But still worth it.
Yeah.
I mean,
it
snips off how many hours for you?
A couple hours.
Yeah, I believe it. It's straight instead of going all the way, following the coast.
Yeah, because I came back, and from my camp way up where I camp is... I got up there in 6. I came back in 5, coming the shortcut way.
Yep.
Out of No Name Mountain.
No Name Mountain on the brook.
So how did you start hunting Maine?
My brother, older brother, went to school in Unity. And I think through some of his friends, and he was friends with Terry Spear, who I think you guys will be talking to.
Eventually.
Yeah. He's outstanding, got some really nice deer. So they kind of ganged up, and I think he went up with his buddies and explored.
Yep.
And then told me about it and my other brother. So he's like, you got to get up here.
Yep.
So we went up, and kind of overwhelming compared to down here, hardwoods and hills.
Yeah, right.
You got up where I am, or, it's pretty flat, swampy, and thick.
Mm-hmm. Cut off.
Yeah, and back in the days of just Topo maps and
No Onyx.
no Onyx, yeah, and no Garmin's. It was just you had 2 different compasses with you, Topo maps that you put up on the wall in your camp and analyze every night. You'd have a tear off one in your pack and make sure, and that's it's all gridded with yellow lines.
Yep.
So you'd check to see if you crossed that yellow line and knew where you were, but guys got lost up there.
Yeah, and there was nowhere near the road system, right?
No.
Like what there is now.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And now, like I heard on one of your other podcasts, there is a lot of roads, but a lot of them are just so blocked off, and there's areas you can get into that nobody gets to.
No kidding.
It takes a little bit of dedication. I'm up there now. I mean, before, when I first started, that was, mid-'80s. And, it's Little Vermont. It was
like green plates everywhere.
green plates everywhere.
Yep.
And, they concentrated more on the Golden Road. It was just campsites. So a lot of people knew, and, people know where I camp, now. And we're friends with guys that we've met, 35 years ago that still go up there, and we meet up.
Yeah, there's a pretty tight community of guys up there that you've got to know over the years.
Yeah.
And they've been there for years and years and years. I mean, for instance, some of these campsites you pull into, you'll have like little concrete pads, and they'll have like somebody that was staying there for years and years and years passed away. And I just know at one campsite they've got like the guy's Grange boot imprint in the concrete, and his name, and
Cool.
a lot of heritage to it.
Yeah, there's guys that I know. They had buses. Of course, Pelletiers were big up there. They're all friends. They used to have a big bonfire party towards Thanksgiving or just after, and they have Thanksgiving up there, in the bus. And usually had a live turkey that was wandering around the bus. Just would stay right there the whole time.
No kidding.
Yeah, so they'd invite anybody that they saw, come on over to the bus. We're having a great big turkey dinner. So
That's cool.
they're still up there. I thought they weren't going to make it last year, but they still drove the bus up there last year. I went down and had Thanksgiving with them.
That's pretty cool.
Yep.
That's pretty neat.
And they don't ever really get much for deer.
No?
No.
Well, they have a good time, though.
Just enjoy hunting.
Yep.
They're not, not big, like drinking or anything. They just like to get away and do their thing. So
It's pretty cool.
yeah.
So you guys hunted Ontario together as well?
Yep.
Quite a few years? Or
Yeah, I don't know, 4 or 5.
Yeah, probably 4. I hunted another couple of years after you guys.
Yeah. I threw in the towel and you kept going.
I made the solo trips.
yeah. Let's hear some good Ontario stories. I'm always interested to hear about those. I feel like I kind of missed it, I feel like I missed the golden, like I've heard guys say that it was the best whitetail hunting like on earth is what I've heard.
It was.
What would you compare it to Maine when you started going to Maine in mid '80s? What would you compare it to?
I'd say it was comparable. The sign you would see, telephone pole, trees, hooked, and the amount of sign you saw, the size of the tracks.
Yeah.
It was. I'd say definitely comparable to what it was back in the day in Maine.
So Maine was that good. So I missed that too, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, you don't realize it until it's gone.
Yeah.
So we always look back and go, wow, we had it lucky. Like you said, we'd drive down the road.
Yep.
There's a 200-pounder. No, that's not really going.
You didn't.
That's
like where
not going to a great place. Well, no, that one's alone. No, that one's with a doe. Well, we'll come back, check on that. You'd see 5 or 6 easily.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember you saying that first year that you got out there, and I think we'd got snow, that it was very comparable to what Maine used to be. And Boyer said the same thing. There was a lot of big ones. A lot of big ones to be had.
And the ratio, I think, the same. Like in Maine, you saw a lot of buck, and same in Ontario. We saw a lot.
I think part of that too is like, I know I talked about it on one of the other podcasts, but the forest was evolving all, like northern Maine, correct me if I'm wrong, but they were starting to log further and further and further, right?
Yeah.
And the population was there, but it was also exploding. But the further that you got in, the better the age class got, and same thing in Ontario. It was there, and the genetics are there too, right? And it was a wonderful place.
Yeah, you definitely knew any day you could shoot the buck of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't like you were going, okay,
Yeah, right.
let's see what I can get out
try
of
to
here.
scrounge out.
Now it's like, I could round this little knob and
And it was pretty flat out there.
Yeah, it's fairly flat. It's pretty rolling, right? Like not high ridges, but lot of water. I mean, you really got to be careful getting behind some of those bodies of water.
Take a long time getting back around.
Yeah, you seriously got to be careful about that. I mean, there isn't a bigger chunk of woods, I don't believe, that holds whitetails anywhere.
Like it's the biggest. Like you can go for like how many miles without roads?
That one road that we were hunting on, where the end of that road to the next road was probably 25 miles plus.
At least.
Yeah. And there was nothing in between there.
And then when we hunted out the other road,
Yep.
And code. And I remember I was out a mile off this road, and we went in a distance on the road, and I was out, over a mile. And coming back out, but I was kind of standing in an area I knew they came out, so I said, I'll stay here till dusk. And actually, this was after you guys had gone. And there was a guy, all of a sudden, it's like dusk. I'm a mile away from the road to get back out, to walk back out or bike. And we, all of a sudden, this orange is coming. I hadn't seen a soul out here ever. That's the other thing. You don't see anybody.
Yeah, you don't hear anything either.
You don't, yeah. And this guy's coming, and all of a sudden I recognize him, and he's in the lodge where I'm staying.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, hey, what's going on? And he's like, oh, headed back to the truck. And he points in the opposite direction. And I go, that's not the way. And he goes, oh, yeah, it is. And look right here, I'm coming. I'm like, at that time, we had Garmin's. And I said, no, look. And I said, I know this. I've come in here tons. I said, it's this way. He's like, wow, good thing I ran into you. I said, yeah, we would have been looking for you for a day or two.
Yeah, I remember standing on one of those ledges, and that GPS, the compass and the GPS would just sit there and spin.
Yeah.
Spin. Yeah, you definitely had to be careful.
Why would it spin?
It's whatever's in that rock.
In the ground?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Was that guy Buck? You met some guy from Wisconsin out there or something.
Oh, no, it wasn't that guy.
That wasn't that guy?
Yeah, no.
Buck, if you're listening to this, I'd love to have you on. This guy was from Wisconsin, he was a deer hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was, through and through.
Because I ran into him the last couple of years I was there. He was at the bottom of the road. I talked to him for a while there. One of the last years I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely talked to some folks on that road, especially like guys that had been hunting there for a number of years before we got there.
Yep.
And there was one old timer I remember from Michigan that said, "This is nothing," right? Like this was the best that we had seen when we found this area. It was virgin timber, and they were just starting to cut it, and there was deer all over it. I mean, phenomenal. And I remember that old timer telling me that it used to be like that everywhere up there. Like you could drive down the road and there'd be telephone poles on the side of the road just railed.
I remember just in the transition of when I started to go, which was a couple of years after you were there, or a year, and you're like, you'd drive down the road and there'd be hooking all over the,
Yeah.
Just look on the roads and see all the sign. And,
Yep.
We saw a little bit when, we were going, but it was tailing off even then.
Yeah.
But, the pressure and everything else, that was the first time I used a roll can You know, I remember
Yeah.
you guys may have been using it or whatever. I picked one up and was like, went out first day, blue sky, blue jay day, rolled the can, and here comes this nice 10-pointer in the first day. And I'm like, and it was nice 10.
Yeah.
That's the one Chris ended up shooting.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm not. It's first day. I'm not going to shoot this one.
Yep.
And we went back, and he got it a couple days later.
Yeah.
That was
Now is
220 something.
there oak out there? Is there no oak?
No oak. No.
It's
no
all
oak.
just like spruce and maple
Yeah, there's a lot of popple.
Yeah.
or popple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's popple. There was birch.
And the cedar.
Yeah, a lot of cedar. There was red pines in
Yeah,
certain
red pine,
areas. Yeah.
You know, I read a thing that the best tree for a whitetail is a popple.
Yeah.
I
There's a
would
lot of
always-
those. There's a lot of those out there.
I always thought it would have been an oak tree of some sorts, but nope,
Yeah.
it's a popple. Something about the regen, they just eat the heck out of it. They can eat it right down to like almost an inch in diameter, I guess, if they need to. And
No kidding.
I guess it's the best thing for them.
Huh.
Best habitat.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild area. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
Yeah.
You know, there was always a group of us that went. There was 8, 9 of us that went.
Yep.
We'd stay in a cabin or 2 cabins.
Yeah. Yeah. It was,
We had
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun with it.
yeah.
How many 200-pounders do you think you guys got between like your guys that you went with over the years?
I don't know, not that many, right?
Oh, you got most of them.
There was
He'd get them and be like, let's go.
Yeah, time to go
Because he
back
wanted
home.
to get back home.
Oh yeah,
I'm being picky. And
yeah.
there was a lot of that, 200, 220-ish, you know,
Yeah.
most of those.
Of course, they didn't have scales, so we'd always bring our own.
Yep.
Yeah, because they never weighed them. You didn't report them. You had to just do your tag and then do an export.
Yep.
When you left. But
Yeah.
so we brought our own scales.
Yeah.
So no tagging stations.
No, there was no tagging station.
There's probably like no towns either, right? Or like
Just a little tiny town
Yeah.
where we stayed, and for everybody that's listening, like we didn't see that many deer where we were hunting, not compared to some of these guys that were hunting way
Yeah.
way north that
Yeah.
that were seeing. I mean, some of those guys were seeing 25 deer a day.
Yeah.
That was a lot of. We'd see probably 25 deer in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
When we got into this one area, I will say that I saw 16 deer one day. Most of them were all doe, but that was that area that was like,
just really good habitat.
yeah, we found the gold nugget. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
it went by the wayside very, very quickly, and it wasn't long before more people caught onto it. More Vermonters, right? And
The worst kind.
The green place.
you needed access by a certain
Yep.
2 wheels to get you back in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yep. So
And then, how far you'd want to go.
how far you wanted to go? I remember one day I was out there with Dustin's dad, and he'd shot a buck, I'd shot a buck, and there was 2 bodies of water that came together, and it just was like a little tiny river that connected them, and there was a bridge over it. That's where the road went, and came over that bridge, and here's wolf tracks right in the dirt. We just missed the thing.
Yeah.
I was like, spin this baby around.
Yeah, right.
No firearms, no nothing. Of course, we didn't know nothing about wolves. They were probably just scared of us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard them every morning when I'd go in,
you would.
stop. Yeah.
You guys
take
ever
a
see
break.
him? Ever see one?
Oh, I never did. Your old man did.
Yeah, I never saw one. I heard them. My old man had an encounter with one.
Yeah.
He was sitting there or something, heard something. I don't know if he was rolling his can or whatever, but heard something, turned around and looked, and when he did, that wolf was like, let's just say it was 10 yards. It was close to him, big black wolf. There was 3 of them, I believe.
Yeah, and they were surrounding him.
Yep.
Because he was looking at the one in front. And all of a sudden, he heard something behind, turned around, and that one was behind him.
Yep, scared the bejesuses out of him. But it scared the bejesus out of the wolf too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
turn, both of them, holy shit,
Yep.
and the wolf's got out of there.
No kidding.
Yep.
Yep.
I heard I don't know if it was true or not. These guys would be a good guest as well. But there's a hunting party from just south of here, and they were hunting a place and killed a buck, and they got surrounded by a pack of wolves. And one of them knows wolves extremely well, like studies them out Yellowstone way, and they held their ground. Those wolves walked away. But I guess it was a very touch and go moment.
Wow.
All they had was a muzzleloader.
Holy crap.
One.
Dang.
Mm-hmm.
That's gnarly.
Yep. But it's the most eerie sound you've ever heard. You know, we were talking about it earlier, but I had him holler between me and the truck, and I made it to the truck just as quick as I could. I was out of there before it was getting dark. Deep howl. Wicked.
Makes you nervous.
Is there wolves in Maine? Because I hear a lot of guys say on the Canadian side, on the like western side, that they see wolf tracks here and there. I don't know. I've never seen one, but
No,
that's what I've
not
heard.
that I've
You've
ever.
hunted it for 25 years.
No, somebody's probably just seen a bear track or something.
25,
More than that.
35, 40, almost 40 years.
Yeah.
I've never seen a wolf.
No, huh?
No, never have. You know, big dogs, but
Yeah, big coyotes.
yeah. And now it's lynx are coming in more than there's no more bobcats.
Oh, yeah.
It's all lynx.
Huh.
But I haven't even seen one of them. You just see the tracks and stuff. So.
So we should describe. I mean, I know the backstory behind him very, very well, but Eric stays in a camp that most people would lose their mind in. How big is this camp?
A luxurious 8x12.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's a plywood camp. It's
Yep.
you know, that I put together. It's
Yep.
hinged on the corners.
Yep.
And I don't remember if I just saw old timers doing it or somebody who had done it. Everybody, you know, that I'd seen, we used to stay in a camper in the back of the truck.
Yep.
You know, it was always it was a pain because you were limited on driving, what you could do with it, and then heat sometimes, just the way it would work. And then tents. Guys had problems with tents, you know, wall tents. But so, yeah, I made the camp. I'm probably on the fourth or fifth one now, but
How do you heat it?
just a ventless propane heater.
Oh, okay.
It's,
like a little
you
buddy
know,
heater?
it's but it's a wall mount. Goes to a 20-pounder outside.
Okay.
And I get another line coming in for my 3-burner stove. I mean, it's
all you
got
need,
half-inch insulation. It's insulated on the ceiling. It's got a floor.
Yep.
Berber carpet. It's 2 bunks.
Perfect.
It's hot as can be. Watch DVDs on the TV. Got a little generator, a little Honda generator I've had for 25 years. Puts along, and it's like home.
It's perfect.
And everybody knows the camp.
Oh,
It's in
yeah.
the same spot every year. Guys come and visit.
Yeah, the one year I went, there was 3 of us in there.
That's a
Nice.
little bit.
It was tight.
Yeah.
No
I've
chili?
had
No chili
4.
for dinner? Or?
No, not at all. Yeah, like the old timers, no onions, no.
Yeah, no onions, no chili.
Yeah, no chili, no,
Garlic, none of it.
none of it.
Yep.
No funky smells.
That's funny. You boys probably ate pretty good, though, up there, huh?
I eat better at deer camps than I do at
Dude,
home.
yeah. Isn't that funny how
Yeah.
that is?
You pack away everything.
Yeah.
And then usually, just because you're doing a lot more, so
Yeah.
you're eating more lunch, you're having a good breakfast, you're
Yeah.
having a good dinner, and
Yep.
hitting the sack usually.
Yep.
Pretty tired and get up for the next day.
Most people lose their mind in that thing, though. You got a window in it?
Yeah.
You got a window in
Yeah.
the door or something?
I
You
got
do?
3 windows.
Do you? Yeah.
Window in the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. Now I've got like a little gas shower unit too.
Wow.
Hooks up, portable outside.
That's a game changer.
So you're like, before, back in the 80s, you'd take a 2-hour trip out to town and pay $1 to go take a shower. It was, yeah.
I mean, there was one of the times I went up to northern Maine, I went the full 6-7 days, no shower.
Oh, yeah.
It was grunge.
Yeah.
Oh,
was
it's
bad.
rugged.
I mean, we did it.
Yeah,
but
it's rugged.
yeah, yeah.
Boil up some water and
Yeah, you definitely, but, you try to not get very sweaty anyways. Of course, last year was you're hunting in a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was, rough, but I usually go up and stay for the duration.
The whole season?
Yeah, you were there last year for how many days?
Yeah, well, this year I was there until, it was 4 weeks,
Yeah.
at least 4 weeks. And then, I was there year before for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, stayed for muzzle. It didn't this year.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
You you target specific deer, right? Like, this one thing I know about him for those that are listening, like, he doesn't just shoot a buck or a racked buck. Like, it's gotta mean something to him in a way, right? Like, how many buck did you pass up this year?
9.
And how many of those do you think were hovering 200?
3 or 4.
Yeah. So
Lucky they
For
didn't
all-
walk in front of me.
yeah, for all of those listening,
Yeah.
he's passing up 200 pound bucks for that, 220, 230, 240, 250.
So you want a real big one.
Yeah, I mean, weight-wise, great. Yeah, definitely. Judging by the track, it's changed. It depends on snow.
Mm-hmm.
Good conditions, then I'm tracking. Other times it's not, then I'm bopping around, scouting. If I know good areas that they're traveling during the mornings at night,
Mhm.
then I'll hang there a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
poke. But it's got to be something that sparks me to shoot when
Right.
I see it. If
Right.
I hesitate at all, then I know it's
Then
not
you don't shoot.
what I want.
Yeah, because you see rack bucks all the time
Yep.
that you're not shooting,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
most guys
Unless-
would be on the trigger, and he is not. Like,
Mm.
he's very patient in that sense of things.
Yeah, I don't need to, I love venison and everything
Yeah.
else, but I'm not there to. That's why I just concentrate on Maine. That's my number
Yep.
one spot. That's what I'll stick out. And then if I get one there, then back to here,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe,
Yep.
Other spots.
How
I
many
have-
200-pounders have you shot in Maine?
I think it's 6, 7.
Mm.
It's not, not that many. I'm almost like, for the amount of years that I've been there, not that many, but like,
hard,
last year
though.
I didn't get one. The year before I didn't. But yeah, I'm just looking for ones that, and it's like I've only gotten the one buck.
For the antlers.
For the antlers. But I just, it's got to, like that one, the 250, that the horns aren't very big on that.
No, is that your heaviest?
That's the heaviest.
250. That's a deer.
But,
That's a deer.
he was just, I tracked him for a little while and he
Well,
was.
let's hear the whole.
Yeah.
Let's get a good detailed 250 story.
That was, there's really not much. I had expanded, that was toward the tail end. Things started to tail off a little bit as far as the herd was, spreading
Okay.
out a little bit. It
Yep.
wasn't driving down the road and there's a two. So I'd expanded and gone a little further north and across nice track, and it was headed up. And I was coming down this ridge, and so I went down a little bit further, and there's a track going the opposite way. I said, yeah, he's going down in a nice area, and, it was a nice track,
Mhm.
4 finger wide, nice
Yep.
slew foot track. So I went down the road to turn around to come back up, and came back up, and there's a truck parked on the track. And I was like, you got to be kidding. There's nobody around. And
Green plates?
I pull up. No,
Oh, okay.
it was actually a Pelletier, one of the logger's sons. And I said, and he said, oh, you're after that track? And I said, yeah, I just went down to turn around to park back up here. But, I said, if you want it, no problem. He said, no, we're thinking we're going to go further. And I said, hey, I tell you what, there's another one just down the road that's going the opposite way. He said, no, we're already headed this way. We're going to go hunt that. So I said, all right. So I parked the truck. They went off, and I went down over the bank, and he just did a little loop right there, and the other track was him. He looped.
Oh, okay.
So it's a good thing I didn't, he didn't go, yeah, I'll get on that one.
Yeah.
Same deer. He just did a little loop. So I came across the road. I said, all right, perfect. He's headed up into this area I didn't know at all. Whippy, kind of old cut. And then it kind of got into some nice stuff. And it was blue skies. It had just snowed 4 or 5 inches. It was perfect, but it had stopped. So it was nice blue skies, perfect. And I knew I wasn't really too far behind him, so I was just poking along. And then came through a little alleyway of spruce trees. You know, they were 8-10 foot tall, but it was just like something out of like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You know how you look and all the trees are covered with snow,
Yep.
and it was perfect. And I remember looking down through this, 75-yard alleyway. There was just perfect Christmas trees, all lined with snow.
Yep.
And the sun was right there. And I said, geez, that's a beautiful, beautiful look right there. And at the end of it, there's a bunch of small spruce trees. And I look a little closer, and I look through a little window in the spruce trees, and I see a white spot that's out of place.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, that looks like it. And then I could make out eyes, and then I could see the beams coming out from the side. And I was like, that's a buck right there. And I could see he had pretty good bone coming out. And I said, this is a perfect scenario. So I lined up. All I could see was his eyes and his nose looking at me and his white on his neck. So I lined up, shot him right in the white, and nothing.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, waited a little bit, walked down through, walked around the little spruce pile, and there he was, dead in his bed, never even moved. Went right through.
Beautiful.
So that was, 9.250. And not too bad of a drag.
Yeah.
Really?
Not too bad.
I was just gonna ask, how did it feel? How did it feel pulling 250?
It was good snow. So,
Yeah,
and he
pretty
was
good.
a short deer.
Yeah.
He wasn't, the other ones were a lot longer. So, but this one, you do the rowboat pull and just back up, pull, back up, pull.
Yep.
And that should be a good sponsor for you guys, Concept too.
Yeah, there you go.
And so, it didn't take long. That was, and the year before was the 245, and I tracked him too.
That
So it was 245 the year before, and then that 250 that year.
It's a good couple of years. What years?
Yeah,
What
that
years
was-
were they?
Oh God,
what was the 245 one?
that was the book buck.
Oh, that was the buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
other
that one,
That's a 155-inch 10-pointer.
Yep.
You want to run us through that story? I like the last one. You might as well just
keep them going.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well,
Well,
that
before
one's-
you get going on that, did you ever see Pelletier again?
No, but a mutual friend of ours knows him,
Yeah.
and he saw him a couple days later, and he said, "Hey, did that Adams guy get that deer?" And he said, "Yeah." He said it was 9.250. And he's
Huh.
like, "I thought I heard him shoot." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Unbelievable." He
Yeah.
said he offered me the track, but I didn't take it.
Yeah. Huh.
So,
And that's a
Yeah.
well-known name in that
Yeah.
country. They
Pelletier.
yeah,
Yeah,
I can't
they were-
remember.
what was that? They had a logging show.
Oh yeah, no.
I forget what it was, but they had a
Discovery Channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
North Maine Wood Loggers.
Yeah,
or
I remember
something.
that.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was
Yeah.
kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
All Pelletiers.
Yeah.
Rudy and they're all up there. But that's all since been sold.
No kidding. They're done with it.
Done.
Really?
Done.
I remember watching one of those episodes. One of those log trucks had hit a bull.
Ooh.
Hit a bull moose. It was, I think, right around rut or something, and hit a bull moose. And I think they picked it up with a grapple.
Yeah, grapple.
Put it
on the
log-
trailer and
put
brought
on
it
the log
out.
truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, what was the story with that?
The year
book?
before, the book buck was, not a long one again. Just, where I stay, it's a pretty hot area. And I literally drove up the road a couple hundred yards, and there's this track crossing, and it was fresh, good snow, perfect. One of those days,
Yep.
So I backed the truck up. I backed the truck up to camp and got up my stuff and ready to go. Hiked up the road and hopped on him, and he was headed towards a signpost tree that
Yep.
I knew of, that I've had good pictures on. And he just meandered through, and I did crawl on him pretty good there toward the end. But he was going along good and went right down by the signpost tree, but he just winded it. He never went up to it.
Yep. Just walk by
Yep.
it.
He was, 15, 20 yards away.
Yep.
Just kind of looped around. I go, you didn't even go up and smell it close. And I said, well, he could smell it probably.
Did you have a camera on that tree?
I did.
Yeah. Yeah. So Eric ran cameras on signpost trees, well before I started running them. You were back
back when you had to develop the film.
Yeah, long
So
time ago.
You'd know a week. You'd get all these pictures on your camera. You'd go home,
Yeah.
develop your film, and then like, oh my God, come back. And
Yeah.
You have a lot of data on signpost trees then.
there's a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
So if somebody was to sit on a signpost, what would be your favorite 3-day window for a daylighting buck on a signpost?
I think it varies.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Well, I'm just saying from
yeah.
what you've seen. Has there been a 3-day window that you saw more daylight?
No,
It was just random.
it really, up there especially, they migrate, they change, they travel
Yep.
a long way.
Mm-hmm.
So they might hit that signpost. I'll get them once
Yeah.
on camera
Yeah.
at night,
Right.
and then I'll never get them again.
Right.
So it's so tough. I try not to. It's tough, to hunt the deer that's on the camera.
Yeah.
You want to,
Yeah.
but the next day he could be 20 miles away,
Yeah.
hooking Joey's tree.
No,
Yeah,
I hear you.
in that country, you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of them, a lot of those deer, they're not home-bodied deer.
No.
They're
for
just
the most
cruising.
part. They're just cruising. Yep.
Yep.
And a lot of those signpost trees, to me, this is just my experience with them. They're in travel corridors.
Yep.
Where those doe are traveling, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very similar to a scrape.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them don't ever work it. They're just traveling through, scent checking it, onward, hitting the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Same thing. Like
And I get 5 or 6 bucks hooking the same tree,
Yep.
Yeah.
from a spike horn to a 10,
Oh yeah.
12 pointer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Because so that same tree, we'll get back to the story, but that same tree, I think the year that I hunted there with you, or maybe not, maybe we just scouted or something, but you had a giant buck on.
It was like an 11 pointer, really wide.
Huge framed 11 pointer.
That's-
Huge.
But that's the one that got shot. Yeah, I had it on camera, really nice, wide frame, beautiful buck. But I went home, developed it, saw this picture. I'm like, I'm going back after it. Went back into the area, the Golden Triangle area, and and then I ran into a guy I knew. He said, "Yeah, that got shot, 231."
Yeah, that was like your main buck, right? Like huge body, thick antlers, wide rack.
Not much for tine height, but
Yep.
just thick, big, beefy.
Yep.
They used to call them, a lot of them like bud bucks.
Yeah.
As thick as a Budweiser can on the base of the horns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So same area.
Same area. Yep.
You're tracking this buck.
Yep.
He goes by that signpost.
Goes by the signpost, and then I said, "Geez, what's he going to do here?" He was kind of meandering like he was going to feed, but I didn't really get a feel of him feeding very well. And then he went up, and he hooked a little pine tree, little spruce sapling that was about a foot high, about as thick as your pinky.
Yep.
And he just hooked it and, broke it all up. And I'm like, really? But I could see his tines in the snow a little bit. And I was like, that's just really, I've never seen that before. Hook such a small little sapling, but he was just laying scent down. And that actually wasn't far from the signpost tree. So then he just started weaving through, and I said, wow, he's got to be right here. So I just slowly stepped through between some spruce trees, and it opened up into, a really older cut. It had grown up really nice, but it was clear, good, I said, God, I got to look. So I was really panning way out in front, and then I kind of came back down toward in front of me, and he was right there, bedded down in the root system of a cedar tree, facing away, not looking on his backtrack.
Ah, Maine.
And all I could see was just a little bit of it. I mean, he was right in the root system of this cedar tree.
Yeah.
And he was looking right away. And, of course, naturally, I saw the rack and was like, okay, no problem. And
Yep.
same thing, I just on his neck.
Yep.
And he never moved. His head
Beautiful.
just laid down, and I walked up. And that was it. So wasn't too bad of a drag. My buddies were there, my brother and a friend of ours was there, but Went back to camp, left a note, come help drag. I got my video camera and videoed walking back to it and videoed what I could of it. And
That's how you guys used to do it back in the day, was like go back to camp, leave a note, or go to the guy's truck if you could find it or something. There was no radios. There was none of that stuff. You were on your own.
Or or signal, go back to camp, say anybody's within range, shoot 2 or 3 times, leave a note. Then they knew if they heard shots or whatever, come back out and check. Because normally, like my brother shot one year, and it was, it took us all day to get it out. And then the next year I went in and shot one in the same spot, so I knew that was where the web-racked one that you like up there.
Yeah, it's a giant.
And that one was
big palmated looking thing.
Yeah, 9.5 years old. He had no teeth left.
And what did he weigh?
227. Yeah. And that was, fairly, I think, first or second week. But that was bare ground.
Oh,
I just went into it. Yeah, it was a scrape line area.
Yep.
And went in. That might have been my birthday buck. And it was
early November.
Early November. And, it's good 1.5 miles, 2 mile walk in.
Yep.
On this logging road. It was just, the trail that came over and met into an old logging road, and it was always ripped up.
Yep.
20, 30 scrapes, hook trees, everything and I'd walked in, basically on a scouting mission, just seeing what was there, and I was like, oh. And I got up to this area where it kind of changes, and I said, I'm just going to, and I didn't feel well at all. I was sick. And I said, I can't walk back out. I've got to, and I just sat against a tree and fell asleep. I had such a headache and thought I was going to get sick to my stomach. I don't know if I was dehydrated, didn't drink enough water or something, but just didn't feel well. So I took like a quick little 20-minute, 30-minute nap.
Those are the best.
And I remember just waking up and I was looking off to the left up into this hardwood, and here comes a deer out of the hardwood at like 9 a.m, walking along, and I'm like, and that was the second deer I'd shot in Maine, and the first one I shot was a small 8, and I'm like, I'm not shooting one of those again. Everybody's like, oh, you said you were going to mount your first one. I'm like, no, I didn't. So I could see, and back in that day, I hunted with, my father gave me a Model 94 .32 Winchester Special. So I was just this long octagonal barrel, open sights, looking at this deer that's 200 yards away, kind of walking down to me. And I could finally see he had horns, and I couldn't make it out. And I was like, well, I can't. And so then he's about 100 yards away, but now he's starting to cut across. He's not getting closer. And I was like, I'm not going to shoot. I can't tell what he's got.
Yep.
And finally, the sun just hit the horns just right, where I was like, he's got some mass. He's got something there. So he stepped out from behind a couple of trees. He stopped at first behind some trees, and I couldn't see him, and he was there for 5 minutes. And I began to do the weeble, and I'm like, he's right there. Stop moving. He's going to see you. Chill out. I had a good rest on a tree, like I said, open sights. And he finally stepped out, and I just slowly squeezed and tried to put in the best shot I could, and shot. And his head went up, his tail went up, and bounded off right down over a bank. And I said, well, at least I got a shot at a nice buck on my birthday. And I said, well, I'll go over and see if I hit a tree or what happened. Excuse me. And so I went over and looked, no blood, no hair, and tried to see where he'd gone, through the leaves, and looked down over the bank, and there he was, piled up, dead, all done. So I was like, wow, right through. And then, like I said, yeah,
Yep.
it's, 13 points, really webbed, old deer. So, so
Keep in mind, Eric can shoot.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. He I can vouch that he can shoot. He's got very good eyes.
that's from the rabbit hunting days.
Oh, yeah, picking rabbits off with 22s like you wouldn't believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I paced it off. It was 120 yards, 120 of my paces
That's pretty
away with that open sight.
good. So,
Yeah.
what do you use for a gun now?
Now I'm 7,600.
Yeah.
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 I used bolt for a long time. I shot 2 or 3 with the Model 94, and then my father got me the 7,600, and then I missed a whopper. I had open sights, and I remember I missed a whopper with it, and so I switched over to my bolt, and I was hunting actually. It's a beefy 300 Winchester mag.
Wow.
But I got that. I had Labrador puppies, and a guy traded me. He's like, my gun with 2 boxes of shells and one of your dogs? And I said, sure. But I got a lot of deer with that gun. It shot well. And it was even, it had an old Weaver scope on it. The sight line on that was just really poor. So now I switched over.
What are you running for a scope on that?
It's just a Leopold.
Yeah.
2 to 7, I think.
Yep.
But it's real good.
Yep.
Fits my eye real good. It's quick.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
carbine, and that takes you back to the rabbit hunting days because I shot usually with a pump or an automatic.
Yeah, you.
That's good practice.
You're lethal open sight 22, rabbit hunting.
With open sights?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to squirrel hunt with open sights, Ruger 1022,
Yep.
just the old
Oh yeah.
open sights.
We'd shoot everything.
Yeah.
We'd always just target practice and shoot cattails at
Yep.
way away and do whatever we could. And yeah, it was. I actually was hunting with Chris one day, rabbit hunting, and partridge took off, and I shot it with the 22 flying.
Nice.
I said, nobody's going to believe me. I said, you got to come over here. And he came over, and there was snow on the ground, obviously. Yep. And I said, just jump the partridge. I said, I shot at it. I said, we were out in the middle of nowhere, so it wasn't like it was arc and a shot out into town. It was in the middle of nowhere in a mountain range.
That's pretty good.
And, yeah, dropped it. He couldn't believe it. He saw it, and, yep.
That's pretty good.
You just shoot a lot. It's just memory.
Yeah, it's just muscle memory.
Not even.
It's like throwing a baseball.
Like skeet.
Yeah.
Like anything. It's there.
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
Some guys, though, just have it, right? Like you are one of those people that very rarely do you miss. Very rarely.
I've missed.
Yeah, you have.
Yeah,
but
I
very,
relive those pretty good.
very, 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 very rarely.
Well, I usually don't shoot because I got to see what's going on. I'm always looking at the deer, trying to see, so it's usually, because if I'm tracking one, I jump it up. If I don't immediately see big time raccoon I'm shooting, I've taken the time, so I got the time to put the shot in. He's walking along, he's bedded down, he's whatever. So, but I've missed my fair share too.
So that triangle that you spoke of, where you killed your book one, there's a little bit of a backstory to this triangle. There's been some deer
of the amount of.
There's been some serious buck killed out of this.
Yeah.
What town?
No Name Brook runs into it just off of None of Your Business Mountain.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys always called it the triangle, and when I heard about it, I was like, that is the golden triangle.
Yeah, and it's really not that big a piece of woods. It just seems to be, like you say, it's a travel corridor. It's a real good mix area. It has it all in it, and it's surrounding it. And still to this day, there's some monsters that come through there.
No kidding.
And so there's at least,
How many bucks have come out of there that you can think of?
6 or 7.
Yeah, and a buck, so everybody knows that mastic then was what, 140? Yeah,
and I think
it
it's
has 140.
That's net too, right? Isn't Mastic
net.
net? Yeah, 140 net.
Yeah.
And then what was it non-typical? 155?
Oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you had to
I
have.
think it's 155 net
Yeah.
non-typical.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, at least.
I believe.
But there's quite a few bucks that really, really good bucks that had come out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard club to get into.
I remember going to the show with him in Augusta, Maine, when you got that mount back to enter into the mastic thing. And at that point in time, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, just phenomenal antler deer coming out of Maine.
Yeah. And my 10 isn't, I mean, it's nice, but it kind of crab claws comes, it's not one of those majestic, wide, it's nice tines. It's just a perfect, nice 10, solid.
Mm-hmm.
But you see the horns sometimes at those mastic shows, and it's just like, wow.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think a lot of those real big slammer ones come from like the potato country way up north. That's what I've heard.
There was some there from the southeastern Maine, right? So like that Bay of Fundy area. Don't hold me to it. I think it's like kind of like that Washington County area.
Yeah.
Just
down east.
Yeah, phenomenal antlers.
Isn't that what they call that, down east?
I don't know what
I think that's
down
what
east.
I've only been over that way once, but
I paint a house down. I always go down to York, Maine. Actually, owners of Darn Tough Socks.
Yeah,
and they're in York, and they're right off the ocean. And he has a garden out on his lawn, and he's literally 300 yards from the ocean. But he had a nice garden, and 6-7 foot fence with bars of soap hanging off it, and everything else. And I always chuckled. And he said, "Yeah, the darn deer." And I pulled back in to the house one night, and there's a nice 200-pound 8-point buck standing in his garden.
No kidding.
Chewing away right there on the coast of Maine.
Yeah.
They tuck right in little cul-de-sacs and right
they're
on the
safe.
other side of 1A there.
I remember we went into a store when you got your moose permit. We were eastern.
Yeah.
And we went into an old store there, and they had a bunch of shed antlers there and some deer on the wall and phenomenal antlers. Mm-hmm. Heavy horn, heavy horn bucks.
Yeah, there's some nice deer. But that triangle definitely produced some nice. And I forgot about the one the New Jersey guy shot right in front of me. Almost shot me.
Really?
Yeah. I was coming down. It was old logging road. And all of a sudden, I was tracking, and there was a buck on the trail. And I said, "Jesus, this is perfect." And it just happened to intersect where these guys were. And this was back more in the day where there's more hunters around and stuff. And all of a sudden, bullets are flying. I mean, they're hitting the limbs right. But I ducked down behind the tree. And I'm like, holy moly. And all of a sudden, the guy starts yelling, excited, screaming, "You got it." And I'm like, I yell. And he's like, "Robbie," or whatever. And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not who you think it is. I'm right here." He says, "I just shot an unbelievable deer." I was closer to the deer than he was. Wow. I was the first one to the deer. So we tracked. I was on the buck. Yep. He intersected. The buck saw him and turned and was running back to me.
And he was.
And it was just on the other side of this. Where spruce comes together in the logging trail,
Yep.
And I couldn't see on the other side, but that buck was right on the other side, and he was shooting right by me, and he hit that, and that was a triplex brow tines. That was a book buck. That thing, was
big,
just
non-typical
Budweiser buck, Budweiser can for bottoms, just gigantic,
really?
Longhorns, really nice buck. And I don't even know if they went and,
got him scored.
It was definitely a book buck.
Yep.
But they took out a Rambo knife and.
Oh, no.
They cut that from the bottom lip to the ass end. And I'm like.
Oh, yeah.
What are you? I'm like, aren't you going to mount? You're ruining your cape. And they're like, "Oh, no." I mean, the guts were I'm like, okay, you guys are all set. Yeah. I'm out of here. Good, good buck.
Yeah.
It was it was kind of sad. It just really didn't have much respect for the animal.
That's too bad.
It was, they were fired up, which is, but
Yeah.
that was not good.
That's a pretty close call.
Yeah.
So you not only Maine, you've killed some bucks elsewhere too. I mean, you've done the trifecta. You've done that.
Yeah, we always joked around, about the 600-pound club.
Yep.
Trying to get, and I don't know if up here they had the buck club, they had the 3, but I don't know if they did it by.
Who had that? Did Johnson have it?
No, it was up at Klutz.
Oh yeah, in Eden. Yeah, the old store.
What is
If you could get 3 deer, 3 different states,
in 1 year?
that
We're over 200.
We're over
that
200.
or that the total weight of the 3
Okay.
was more than 600 pounds.
So Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine,
Yeah,
in
and
1 year.
and I'm sure there's other groups of guys within certain areas of Vermont. Like I just don't know them, right? But like in this area of like a 30-mile radius, there is some serious buck hunters, right? Like serious big heavyweight hitters. And that store, I mean, it would take a serious buck to win that pool.
Yeah, 240s, 250s.
Yep.
Out of Vermont, even.
There was some big
Good
ones.
ones. Yeah.
There were some big ones.
Yep.
So did that pool, was it for Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine?
Yeah, so they had a separate pool, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, right?
Oh.
Like a combined weight. Then they had one for Vermont.
Gotcha.
They might have even had one for.
So you did the 3 in
I
1
didn't
year?
join it. Yeah, I just.
So you got 3 200-pounders.
I got 3. Yeah, so it just chimed out right because I always concentrate on Maine. Maine's the goal, no matter what. If it's 70 degrees, I'm hunting Maine. I don't care. I'm hunting Maine.
Yep.
That's my happy place.
Yep.
So I had gone up. It was the first day, and a buddy was staying with me. So I had taken on the Sunday, taken camp up, set it up for him, get it all set. He came too. But my girlfriend at the time had made plans for a concert the next night on a Monday. So I got up the next morning and said, well, I got an 8-hour drive back or whatever, but the concert's not until 8 at night or something. So I can leave at, noon or 11 or whatever. So I said, I'm going to hunt, but it was, first day, blue sky, fairly warm. So yeah, I just headed down to a spot I knew right on a corner of a river. And, I knew it would be cooler down there, and so I just went down there and kind of posted up and was having a good day, just relaxing in the sun, listening to the brook, and of course you always run scenarios through your mind and picture what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
I pictured it, and there it was, a rack buck coming around the corner, coming up the stream, just barely in the stream, walking up the shoreline, and so that's when I had the 300, and so I rested and shot, and he just raised his head up. And I'm like, I think I aimed too high. I was like, well, because he was a distance away. And so I said, no, I'll just barely, I'll tuck it right in there. And I tucked it in there, and he just ran back into the woods. So I got down in there, and he was there right there on the shore, right in the rocks. And, sand. It wasn't rocks. But, so that was 245.
Wow.
First day. So, yeah, he was heavy, hadn't run it off yet. Short deer again. And so then...
Next day, right?
So then I booked it, got in the truck. I was scrambling to get the deer out. It was completely uphill the whole way. Dragged it out, got it to the truck, got in the truck, called up my girlfriend when I finally had service and said, I'm going to make it, have my clothes out. I'm booking it back. Pulled into the dooryard, ran in, changed, got back in her truck, left. She goes, when are you headed back up? I said, I'm not. I've got one. It's in the back of the truck. She never even saw it or knew. I didn't tell her.
That's funny.
So then my buddy ended up shooting one up there, and season hadn't started in New Hampshire. Oh no, it must have started in New Hampshire. So I went back up and got this camp, and a friend of ours was building a camp in Pittsburgh. So I said, hey, let's hunt New Hampshire. I'll put my camp in his dooryard. And so my dog is being a pain here.
So everybody that hears the little clanking, it's a year-old yellow lab that's chewing on a moose antler, right? And he's got a hold of my arm at the moment. So you hear any ruckus, it's just her.
And
good girl.
So we went to New Hampshire. I didn't know the area very well. Friends of mine had hunted it some. So I just explored around. I think it was must have been the first day. I explored around the first day. Again, blue sky day. Looping back around toward the truck, kind of got into a clear cut. Posted up on this side hill looking down into the cut, and it was perfect. And sat there for, I don't know, an hour or so, and then finally looked down in front of me, and there was a little island of spruce trees, and I said, God, I could make out a leg, and then I could make out a shoulder, and then I go, there's a deer bedded down right there. And just as I'm thinking that and looking at that, and I've been there, like I said, an hour and a half, that deer decides to stand up, and it was a buck. And it didn't, it looked pretty good, so he started to go. He'd either winded me or something, so he started to go, so shot him. So that was an 8.178. And that was, first or second day that I'd hunted there, so got that back to camp, past the guy who stayed had the camp.
Yep.
And he knew I'd had a buck in Maine because he was up there. Got one the first day, so then got one there. So then I said, okay, well.
Is that Carl? Who is that?
Tib.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
he was like, couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, well, I'll hunt in northern Vermont. And I think we had some time before. So then we got good snow, and I'd driven up long road and not much for tracks at all, and stopped and saw the woman at the store.
We can say the name of the name of the store because
I can't remember the name of it.
You can't remember the name of it?
Is it little?
Yeah.
Averill store.
Averill store, and for anybody that's had ever been there, previous of the last 10 years, there was a little old lady there named Priscilla that ran this store.
Sweet lady.
It was a store that you'd walk in and you'd get a soda and a candy bar, and that was about it. There was nothing else there. There was some fuel.
Yeah.
I've stopped in there with Nate, and we've looked through the books.
Yeah.
Because the guy has all the book all the way back to the 70s.
Yeah. So
of all the
Polaroids.
Yeah. And we were looking through them. Some giants come through there.
Yeah.
So I swung in there to get a soda, my morning coffee, and talked with her. And she says, well, why don't you just drive down this road? That's always been a good area. Because I was kind of like, well, what should I do now? And so she just kind of said that. So I said, all right, I'll go for a ride down that road. And got a nice buck track. And so, again, that wasn't Garmin years or anything either.
No, that was what year was that? Was that
96?
Yeah.
Long time ago.
That's the year I was born.
Back when the deer were black and white. Back when the air was, when I was young. I hopped on that track and boogied right along. And he was weaving. He was looking for some doe. And I remember coming out into, always seems to revolve around an old cut. And there was somebody had a box blind up in a tree, an old plywood thing. And I said, I could see where this track had gone right through all the small spruces right toward. And I said, well, if this was a buck and there's anybody in there, they would have shot. And I poked my way along and looking, kind of waving to see if, and nobody was in the blind. And I remember I got just underneath the blind and got on the other side. And I said, boy, this is nice moose area, nice moose country. And I looked over and I saw the back of this, and I thought it was a moose. It was all wet, because it was a wet snow day. And I remember that vividly, that it looked like a wet moose, wet brown hair, but a little black looking. And it was a buck. He was 20 yards away. Less than that, probably. And he took off and ran right straight away. And I could see where he was headed. And I ran and hopped up on this log to look over all these small spruces, because I could just see his head and his rack going through. And he got down far enough. I picked a spot and I said, if you go through there, I am touching off. And he hit it and I touched off. And I walked down through there and blood, hair. I said, perfect. Walked a little ways, could see leg, hit a leg. No matter what, you can always hit a leg. And more to this story about that. And so I kind of rested for a little bit, let him chill. But I didn't know where I was, so I didn't know if I was going to get cut off,
right?
What Maine road I was going to cross.
Yep.
So I kept going, but always spot him, 200 yards away, running. Could see him limping. I'm like, God, I gotta slow down, let him, But then I'm like, God, it's getting where I gotta get on him. I gotta get on him.
Getting late.
I started going more and more, catch a glimpse of him, pop a shot off, everything else. I ended up shot at least 2 or 3 of his legs. I mean, it was where I felt so bad. At that point, I'd hit 2 of his legs. So he was not going well, but he was still, they want to survive. So.
Yeah.
But I just put it in afterburner after that and just said, I got to kill him. I got to get him. And finally caught him on a bank looking back and got one into him. So, and that one was 224.
Wow.
That's a pretty good buck.
That is a big buck.
8-pointer. So I went back and thanked her, and she came out and took a Polaroid to put in the book.
Yep.
And I think I gave her an extra $1 to take another Polaroid so I could take it back to the guy at camp, to Tib at camp, and leave him a note and say, there's another one. So that was 3 that year. But that's not the kicker. So then muzzle loading comes. I leave my camp up there in Pittsburgh. We're hunting northern Vermont. And we gang up on a couple friends. We were all hunting together. Yeah,
you,
Pat and Chris. We went up into an area.
I'm going to fight with a lab.
My dog. The dog. And, we went up into this area, cut, and then came back down off the hill toward the road. And we see this track. I could see it from a quarter mile away coming off this hill. And it looks like a cow had walked through the pasture. And we get up to it, and I got out and looked, and I came back to the guys and said, this is a buck track. I said, this is the kind of track that you look for.
This is the one.
It's unbelievable. So we made a little plan, said, all right, 2 of us were together on it. I was on him first, and then he stopped and he fed at a tree. And he laid down his rack into the snow and was like, I called Chris over and was like, you got to see this. And we're like, there we go. That's a nice rack. That's ended up going into a Christmas tree farm. Probably people know what I'm talking about. And right up onto a knob in the Christmas tree. And I go, he's bedded down. He's already busted us. He's seen us. We go out. He's running through the Christmas trees. I hear the tractor. I go over to talk to the guy. Tell him what's going on. He's like, no problem. I said, we're not going to hunt in here. We just want to follow him through. He's like, yep, no problem. Super nice. Followed him through. The other guys were on him. He cut across, got up onto a ridge, and I said, I'll cut up, kind of horseshoe around, see if he comes across. And sure enough, I came down off the side hill, and here comes, I'm trying to remember if he was with a doe. I don't think so. And along he comes, just absolute monster deer. big, huge rack, gigantic. I mean, he had a huge foot. He was a huge bodied deer, and by far the biggest one for that year. But that was back early in the muzzleloading days, and literally was the old hammer,
Yep.
percussion, short carbine. And I was trying so hard, open sights, trying to lay a nice sight line on him. And you see him, he stops and he's perfect, but he's, 100 yards downhill. And he's looking back behind him. My buddy's on him. And he's starting to, twitch and get ready. And I'm like, I got to touch off, and never touched him. Followed him down across the stream, up on top of a mountain. My buddy saw me going, literally crawling up this mountainside. I caught him bedded one more time looking at me, but he's too far away. He said he saw me just like pulling myself up by the saplings going up.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm done. But we went back and followed him the next day. I went back, found him, followed him the whole next day, and then he went out of snow because it warmed up. And he went down in the lowlands, and I think he may have even crossed over into New Hampshire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he went down low and
No kidding. So it could have been a New Hampshire
swooped
buck.
across. He was gigantic.
There's been some really big bucks killed in that turf that more than likely they were New Hampshire deer.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yep.
It you know all about it, right? Crossing that river, and it's the same thing in the north, Some ungodly bucks
Come from that other side.
come from that other side. Yeah.
There's always something better on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. It's the same way with moose too. Same thing.
Yeah.
Something about our ground.
Yep.
I'm convinced.
Yep. But so when it's bare ground, just run these guys through like what you'll normally do when it's bare ground.
I'll usually poke around and scout, try to find, pinch points, hunt, look for more sign, new area. That always works out too, tracking, you always find new areas. So I usually try to go back to those areas to learn more what I may have previous years to scout, to see what's happening there. But usually, I like finding the hookings aren't as important to me really, or a signpost. I mean, yeah, but the ground scrapes, the size, the frequency of it, things like that usually.
So just trying to stick in the sign.
Stick in the sign, yeah, and just, hunt and poke. But like this year.
You're not afraid to sit either.
No. No, I'll definitely sit if it's a good area. I mean, I've definitely shot a lot of deer on bare ground.
Yeah.
Just being in the right spot with the sign.
Yep.
And that's, I would say that's one thing that, he does well. He's very, very patient in that aspect of things. When it's bare ground, he'll you'll poke or you'll set a stand and sit there, right? Like
If the days aren't, if it's not good for tracking, I'll definitely go. I'll post up some nice stands, tree stands or even ground stands, and I'll hunt the first few hours, and then I'll use the rest of the day to poke,
Scout,
yep. See what I see. I don't scout on Sundays anymore because I used to do that. You'd always see the buck of your life on
yeah,
on
a Sunday
when you couldn't hunt.
That's the
when you
way
couldn't hunt.
Yeah, that's the way it
I've
works.
seen some huge deer on a Sunday, and you don't have a gun, and you're just scouting, and you just blew him out of the territory.
He was in.
He was in that you probably were going to hunt Monday.
Yep.
So it's like, just don't do it. Scout with a rifle in your hand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or a bow or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But
And then when snow comes, you go.
Yep. Wait for the right conditions. And it's tough. If it snows too early and then they've got the night and then you get up and there's tracks going absolutely every direction. As you know, you can put some serious miles on.
Oh, they can wander.
Yep. So, I just pick the days. Tracking's good. Go for it as long as I can. Getting older, so hunt and poke. And then it's like the last one I shot wasn't far off the road, and it's took me a while.
Took a
Even
while
for
to get
the
'em out.
short distance to drag it, I'm not as strong and in shape to do that. So,
What kind of advice would you give to your 25-year-old self about deer hunting?
Treasure the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the things that, you took for granted or just, assumed it's always was going to be like that or
Right.
always is going to be like that. Just, really enjoy it. And that's what, a bad day of hunting, I don't care. I see pine martens or moose fighting or find a shed or just find one good thing during the day.
Yep.
Just close encounter with a squirrel on your shoulder or whatever,
Yeah.
I almost had a hawk land on me in a tree stand once, it's, moose fighting, all the different things. So had a lot of close encounters with moose too.
Cool.
I should show you that video.
Yeah.
You got a good moose video?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen some wicked bulls up there over the years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
wicked bulls. We found some big antlers up there. We used to go back up there in northern Maine and pick. Of course, he'd see them all deer season. We'd go back up there.
And that's back when nobody was, people were doing it, but it wasn't.
It was nothing
We'd
to
come
find.
back with, the pickup truck with a bunch of horns in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember getting pulled over. Remember going past that warden that one year?
Yep.
And there was just antlers sticking out of the truck everywhere. And he caught up to us down the road.
He was
quite a
checking
ways.
somebody's fishing license, and he turned around and blue lights going on the dirt road, and I pulled over, and he's like, just checking for live heads.
Yeah, and at that point in time, he thought we were crazy to, up there picking antlers. Like nobody was doing it.
Really?
You drive down the road. There's one. There's one. There's one.
Yeah.
We'd stop. He'd see a tree. I got to go check it. Go over there. Yep. Oh, here's another one.
We were walking down the road one time, and the wind was whipping. It was cold, and it was right in our face.
Yeah.
And he turned around. Turned around to walk backwards, and we spun around. He faced back, looked in the ditch, and there was an antler. We just were walking by.
Walked by it. Turned around from the wind, and there it was.
Yeah. No, it was a good time then.
Yeah.
One year we went up. We flew.
Yep.
We flew out of Rangeley and went way up
in the winter just to see.
Yeah.
Some of the moose yarding.
Yep. Find new spots.
Yep.
Landed out on a body of water, frozen body of water.
Really?
Pond.
Yeah.
Middle of nowhere.
He's like, look down there, see any sticks or anything? And you're like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could put that thing down anywhere. Yeah. Right down, take off right between trees. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we landed back down, I forget what it is. It's not Moose Maguntic. I think it's just Rangeley Lake, I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
He's like, just keep an eye for snowmobilers, right? And like Rangeley is like snowmobile hub of the Northeast. There's snowmobile traffic everywhere, and he was taking it. He just took the lane. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It was a good time.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely some good times, and you've killed some buck. As we sit here and look out your bay window, you've killed bucks all over those ridges growing up here, and I mean you're still doing it. You killed a good one a couple years ago. That was 190 some odd here.
Yep.
And
that was first day one.
Yeah, and then you killed another big one there with a muzzleloader.
Yep.
That was a
good
one.
I don't get the opportunity to usually, like I say, prioritize the Maine hunt.
Yep.
Come back here.
I think that's smart.
Usually muzzle loading.
Yep.
And hit it here, and then like we went down Massachusetts way back. I went with him. I haven't got a chance to get back down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Got to do that.
Yep. So
Put the
get
time
out there.
in.
Yeah, put the time in. Get out there. Enjoy it while you can.
Yep.
Cool.
That's for sure.
This has been a good one.
Yeah, and he can go on for days.
I know. We'll have to have you on again. I know. We'll have to be a reoccurring guest.
Oh God,
Yeah.
People get tired of that.
No.
They've heard it all.
No, especially after this coming season, we'll have to get you back on. Get some fresh
time,
stories.
I'm feeling it this year.
Oh, okay.
I'm ready.
You're
last
due.
year.
You're due.
Yeah, I've passed up
Yeah.
quite a few the last few years, but Maine is definitely, it's coming back. But now I don't see anybody. It's changed because now they have moose season the first week of rifle up there.
Yep.
So that creates a little havoc on the roads. As far as, I mean, it's not crazy, but there's a lot more people up there. But
Right.
during regular rifle season, and where I hunt, all the bridges are out and everything is out. And I've hunted there forever, and I'll see 5 people in the 4 weeks of hunting.
Yeah, and
That
That's
were
not
driving.
before we end this, right? Like, for all of those who want to go hunt the Northwoods, you need to be prepared for it, right? Like he's describing, he might see a couple people. Have you ever had a close encounter, like not gonna make it back to town, not gonna make it back to camp?
As far as with your vehicle or hunting, I've never gotten lost. I always played it safe. Vehicle, I ice chunk. I had gotten a buck and an ice chunk. I was going down with a buddy, and an ice chunk had fallen off of his truck, built up in the wheel well.
Yep.
And it rolled underneath the center of my truck and took out my transmission cooler.
Oof.
And how many miles are we? We're way back.
I'm way back. And so I turned around. We turned around. There was a turnaround right off, and I could see it looked like a blood trail. And I
Not
said,
good.
trainee
ATF.
fluid.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm out of here. He's like, wait a minute, stop. We can fit. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm on a small road, 3-4 miles on a small road to get to a little bit bigger road. I said, I got to get out. And I got out to the OK road, and then it started to slip, and I didn't want to burn up my transmission.
No cell service.
No cell service. So my buddy came out, and then we drove a few miles to where there was cell service to call the wrecker down in Greenville. So then he towed me down to the Golden Road with his truck by chain, and it was, cold. It was, real cold. And dog's found a bottle. Can't find horns, but she's found a plastic bottle. And come here. And so we towed it down there and waited. And it took me. He took me down. I rode with him to Greenville. Got there at dark. This happened early in the morning, 6 in the morning, 6:30. Finally got to Greenville.
Yep.
At dark. He took me to the dealership in Dover, Foxcroft, the next day. The guy was super nice. And then spent the night there, rented a car, spent the night in Bangor, came back. My girlfriend came up with her truck, picked me up. She went up and hunted. I still had a deer hanging in the tree back at my camp.
Yeah.
So I went back up with her, hunted the rest of the week with her.
Yep.
Came back out brought camp out with her truck, picked up my truck at the dealership after it got fixed.
Dang.
It's you take chains, you take chainsaws, you take
Right.
everything.
You got to be careful.
You make sure your ass is covered.
Yep.
You don't, some guys. It's not like the Benoits in the old days where, they would just cross any kind of rickety old bridge, beaver pond, and just winch themselves up just to keep going. It's like, but there was people around then quite a bit. I mean, even Benoits were hunting when I was up there, and Hal Blood was up there when I was up there.
Yeah.
Met them and hunted around them all the time.
Yep.
So.
Well, I say we ended on that. So
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
No
thanks
problem.
for coming on.
Apparently, I got to feed my dog or do something.
All right, man. All right, we'll see you on the
All right.
next one, guys.